Good evening, students. Hello, students. Welcome back to the lecture of Environmental Studies, Semester 1. We were looking at first module of first semester syllabus, that is Environmental and Ecosystem, wherein till now we have uh, completed the concept of environmental system, natural and anthropogenic environment, components of natural environment, concept and components of ecosystem. Today we are going to discuss different types of ecosystems and energy flow in the ecosystem. So before we continue with the today's lecture, we need to have a look at the module objective. By the end of this unit, we will be able to understand the concept, definition, nature, scope and importance of environment and ecosystem. We will be able to understand the relationship between man and environment, and we also be able to understand the importance of environmental studies. We have covered this particular part in the last lecture, the concept of ecosphere, ecology and ecosystem, different characteristics of ecosystem, and biotic and abiotic components of ecosystem. Today in this lecture, we are going to see different types of ecosystems, that is land and water ecosystem or terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. We are also going to discuss energy flow in ecosystem in form of food chain, food web and biogeochemical cycles. The ecosystems are primarily classified into two types: land ecosystem or terrestrial ecosystem, and aquatic ecosystem or water ecosystem. Land ecosystem are the ecosystems which develop on land. Forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem and desert ecosystem are the examples of terrestrial ecosystem. Aquatic ecosystem, on the other hand, are the ecosystems which grow in water or develop in water, and based on the water quality they are classified into two: freshwater ecosystem and brackish or saline water ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystems are the ecosystems which developed in river, pond, reservoir, streams and so on. They are of two types: running water ecosystem, the ecosystems which developed in running water or flowing water, and standing water ecosystem, the ecosystems which develop in stored water like ponds and reservoirs. Brackish water or saline water ecosystem, on the other hand, are the ecosystems which develop and grow in saline water or salt water. Depending upon the location of these locations, these ecosystems, they are classified into many: shallow sea water ecosystem, deep sea ecosystem, coastal ecosystem and tidal ecosystem. Let us try to understand all these types of ecosystems in detail. Land ecosystem, which is the ecosystem developed on the land surface, is also called as terrestrial ecosystem. Forest ecosystem is the largest terrestrial ecosystem on this planet or on the earth surface. Depending upon the topographical and climatic conditions, so variation in topography, climate, Forests can be divided into various types. Tropical rainforest are the lush green rainforest in the equatorial region, characterized by heavy rainfall throughout the year. These tropical rainforests grow vigorously and convert into a dense canopy of forest. The dense forest in the basins of Congo and Amazon River in Central Africa and South America respectively are the typical example of tropical rainforests. Monsoon forests, on the other hand, are the forests developed in areas where rainfall is seasonal. Like for example, in India, monsoon forests are more distributed rather than the tropical rainforest and other types of forest. Temperate forests, on the other hand, are the forests which grow in temperate zone of the world, where snowfall is experienced during winter season and the elevation of these temperate forests are higher as compared to those of other types of forest. Alpine forest are the forests which grow in highland areas, mountainous areas, where snowfall is experienced for significant period of time. This is the typical picture of forest ecosystem, particularly the rainforest ecosystem, wherein the dense canopy of forest can be found. Second is grassland ecosystem. Grasslands are the areas with dense grasses in different parts of the world. Grasslands occupy about 19% of the total Earth surface. Grasslands are found in the areas with comparatively low rainfall and thin soil layer, because the roots of grasses do not penetrate into the soil as the trees. There are very less number of roots and they penetrate for very less depth in the soil. Savanna, prairies, steppes and veld are important grasslands in the world. Grassland particularly supports the primary consumers or grass eaters, and hence the grasslands are also occupied by subsequent carnivores which are fed by the flesh of primary consumers, and therefore the grasslands are more important from wildlife point of view. Desert ecosystem are the ecosystems which are characterized by very sparsely distributed shrubs, thorny shrubs particularly, very less rainfall and high temperature throughout the year is the climatic characteristic of desert areas. Different parts of the world occupied by desert have desert ecosystem, wherein besides thorny shrubs and cactus, there are some important creatures also, like reptiles, snakes and camel, which are found in the desert forest. But desert ecosystem are less developed as compared to the tropical rainforest and monsoon forest. The second classification of ecosystem is aquatic ecosystem. The ecosystems which develop in water. Aquatic ecosystem can be classified into two freshwater ecosystem and saline water ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystems grow in freshwater sources like rivers, tributaries, streams, pond, lakes, reservoirs, etc. Whereas saline water ecosystem is also called as brackish water ecosystem, wherein the salt water areas, may it be a creek, may it be a bay, may it be open sea, may it be shallow sea, all these are the areas where saline water ecosystems are found. Besides plankton, which is the aquatic flora, different types of fishes and aquatic fauna are also found in both freshwater ecosystems as well as saline water ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystems can be of two types: running water ecosystem and store water ecosystem. The ecosystems which developed in fresh water receives fresh water from rainfall or streams, and therefore the freshwater ecosystem naturally are depending upon the water supply through rain and streams. River water ecosystem, pond ecosystem, lake ecosystem are the important examples of freshwater ecosystems. Different types of aquatic flora, fishes, birds, and other creatures in the water like frog, turtle can be found in the freshwater ecosystem. Saline water ecosystem, on the other hand, are found in different locations of the oceans and seas. Like deep sea ecosystems are found in the deep seas, where the continental slope is found, the depth of beyond 250 meters below the sea surface up to 2000 meters below the sea surface. Different types of carnivorous fish are also found in such deep water or deep ocean sea ecosystem. Shallow water ecosystems are the ecosystems which develop up to the depth of 100 fathom, that is 180 meters, wherein sunlight can easily penetrate through this water up till the seabed, where planktons can grow vigorously and can help out to develop very well fish grounds in such areas. Tidal ecosystem, on the other hand, is the ecosystem which develop in the lands between the high tide and low tide areas. Coastal ecosystems develop in the coastal areas, bays and creeks as well. Now these are the two major types of ecosystems. Let us now try to understand energy flow in ecosystem. But before that, we need to know the universal law of thermodynamics, which is the law defining the energy flow in the ecosystem. The first law of thermodynamics is energy can neither be created nor can be destroyed. So energy is constant, energy can neither be created nor can be destroyed. Second law says that energy can be transformed from one form to the other form. So although energy is not created nor can be destroyed, the amount of energy that is there in the ecosystem can easily transfer or transform from one form to the another, from one organism to the another, or from one place to the other. And the third law says the energy flow from one organism to the other at various trophic levels in the ecosystem. So, trophic levels are the levels based on the feeding of particular set of organisms like autotrophs, heterotrophs, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and so on. So as we go in the higher trophic level, the amount of energy go on decreasing. And the fourth law of thermodynamics is loss of energy takes place at every higher trophic level because energy is lost in form of heat for digestion and respiration. So significant amount of energy is lost at every trophic level because the huge amount of energy is lost. Almost 90% of the energy is lost at every trophic level because a huge amount of energy is used for digestion purpose and also for respiration purpose. The simplest manner of energy flow in the ecosystem is a food chain. Food chain is considered as the linear flow of energy from one organism to the other organism in ecosystem. So there is a flow of energy from producers to carnivores. So from corn to rat and from rat to owl, or from carrot to rabbit. Rabbit is eaten by fox. Fox is eaten by lion. Grass is eaten by grasshopper. Grasshopper is eaten by frog. Frog is feeded by a python is feeded by frog, and eagle is feeded by python. So this is how the energy flow from one organism to the other, and at every level or every transfer level of the energy, we called it as trophic level, huge amount of energy is lost in form of heat for digestion purpose and for respiration purpose as well. So food chain is very easy to understand, which is the linear flow of energy from one organism to the other organism in the ecosystem. Food web, on the other hand, is a complex nature of energy flow in the ecosystem because as we have seen in the food chain, there is one organism which is eaten by some other organism, and then that organism is again feeds the other organism in the ecosystem. But there was a linear flow. But here, various possibilities that are taken into consideration for transfer of energy. Like for example, plants may not only be eaten by deer or squirrel. It may be eaten by chicken spot, it may be eaten by frog, it may be eaten by other organisms here. And therefore the possibility of trees being eaten by or plants being eaten by has increases more than one. Similarly, at second trophic level, the possibility also increases as number of organisms may feed the other organisms, and here the number of possibilities or alternatives can be generated here, and then the flow of energy doesn't remain in a linear manner. It takes form of a web, and therefore it is called as food web. So there are various possibilities of energy transfer in the ecosystem. That is the reason why it is complex in nature. Biomass pyramid is a very important form of energy flow. I told you that from producers to top carnivores, if you go higher, we'll find that the amount of energy or amount of matter go on reducing, because from producers to herbivores, when the energy is transferred, large amount of energy, almost 90% of energy is being lost, and therefore here 1000 kg of matter is reduced to 100 kg of matter. From herbivores to primary carnivores, again 90% of energy is lost in form of heat for digestion and respiration, and therefore from 100 kg only 10 kg of the material is transferred to the higher order carnivores. And then from primary carnivores to top carnivores, again the 90% of energy is lost and only 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to the other trophic level. And therefore we find that the amount of matter that go on reducing, the amount of energy that go on reducing from producers to top carnivores, and therefore it takes the shape of pyramid, and this pyramid is called as biomass pyramid. And here you can easily say that from producers forms the first trophic level, primary consumers are the second trophic level, secondary consumers are the third trophic level, and tertiary consumers forms the fourth trophic level. And at every trophic level the amount of energy go on reducing. Now this is also called as biomass pyramid, the graphical representation of structure ecosystem starting with producers at the base and successive trophic levels forming the apex is known as biomass pyramid or ecological pyramid. Now there are three types of pyramids: pyramids of number, pyramids of energy, and pyramids of biomass. Pyramids of number, when we talk about the amount of energy that is transferred from one trophic level to the other, the number of organisms go on reducing. Like for example, if there are 10,000 trees, it will feed only 1,000 grass eaters or plant eaters. So here the numbers go on reducing as we go at higher trophic level. Pyramid of energy, the amount of energy that also go on reducing at higher trophic level. Let's say for example, if producers have 1,000 kilocalories at the base, then only 100 of it will be transferred to the next trophic level, because large amount of energy will be lost in form of heat for digestion and respiration purpose. And therefore as you go higher in the trophic level, the amount of energy also go on reducing. And definitely the biomass, the amount of matter also go on reducing as you go at higher trophic level. And therefore the ecological pyramids or biomass pyramid can be classified into three important types: pyramids of number, pyramid of energy, and pyramid of biomass. Let us now look at the biogeochemical cycles. Till now we have discussed that various energy flow that through ecosystem, through food chain or food web, wherein organisms play important role in the energy flow in the ecosystem. But besides that, there are some chemical compounds, there are some inorganic substances also play important role, or they also transfer energy from one place to the other, or one sphere to the other, and therefore they are called as biogeochemical cycles. So the inorganic elements which transfer the energy or cycle the energy through biosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, and lithosphere is called as biogeochemical cycles. Hydrological cycle or water cycle, carbon cycle, and nitrogen cycle are the important examples of biogeochemical cycles. Water cycle or hydrological cycle is the very simple form of cyclic energy flow in the ecosystem. Like say for example, evaporation is the first phase in the water cycle or hydrological cycle. The surface water, may it be ocean water, sea water, or even the water in lakes or ponds or rivers, the surface water get evaporated due to sunlight, and the evaporated water converted into water vapor lift up in the atmosphere at higher level, and then it cools down, resulting into condensation and further precipitation. And the precipitated water, some of it goes into the subsurface, some of it flows to through river and streams, and some of it is stored in the reservoirs, lakes, and ponds. And hence the cyclic form of water from hydrosphere to atmosphere, from atmosphere to lithosphere, from lithosphere to biosphere, and again from litho and biosphere to hydrosphere. So this is the cyclic flow of water, cyclic flow of energy through water cycle is found in the hydrological cycle. Yeah. Next is, now all these things have been discussed, that water cycle or hydrological cycle not only transfer the energy from one sphere to the other, but also from one form to the other form. Like for example, from liquid water droplets, Due to evaporation, it convert into gaseous water, that is water vapor. And again, from condensation and precipitation, from water vapor to water droplets either, or snow droplets, it get converted. And therefore we can also find that there are three forms of material: solid, liquid, and gaseous. Hydrological cycle transfer the energy from one form to the another as well. There are various processes that are involved in hydrological cycle, including evaporation, transportation, condensation, precipitation, and runoff. Evaporation is the conversion of water droplets into water vapor. Transpiration is the evaporation from leaves of plants. Condensation is the conversion of water vapor into water droplets. And precipitation is fall of water droplets or snow droplets on the earth surface under the gravitational force. And surface runoff and subsurface runoff are the flow of water that fall on the earth surface according to the slope. Now let us try to understand carbon cycle. Carbon cycle has its origin from the carbon dioxide or atmosphere carbon, which is absorbed by plants through the process of photosynthesis to make their food. Plants are eaten by animals, so carbon enters in the bodies of animals in form of mm, bones or in form of calcium carbonate. And then the through respiration, some of the energy that release back to, or some of the carbon dioxide that release back to the atmosphere. And also some of the elements are decomposed and enter into the fossil fuels. And when these fossil fuels are extracted from the mines and they are burned in the industries, the combustion or burning of fossil fuels leads to release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So this is how atmospheric carbon enter into the ecosystem, and again through ecosystem and various economic activities like manufacturing industries or burning of fossil fuels, it again turn to atmospheric carbon or carbon dioxide. And this is how the carbon cycle that go on continuing. There are various processes like photosynthesis, food chain and food web, that is the ecosystem. Formation of fossil fuels by the buried of or dead bodies of plants and animals. And also burning of fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide or atmospheric carbon into the atmosphere again, and then the cycle go on continuing with time. The third cycle is nitrogen cycle. Now nitrogen cycle is a very important cycle, although nitrogen has 78% of its composition in the atmosphere, but still then it doesn't play much important role in the ecosystem. Nitrogen or gaseous nitrogen enters into the ecosystem through the process of nitrogen fixation, when nitrogen is converted into nitrates by the nitrogen fixing bacteria. And when these nitrates are converted, I mean nitrogen fixing bacteria or nitrifying bacteria convert nitrogen into nitrates, and then the nitrates are used by plants and animals through food chain. After the death of plants and animals, again the nitrates or nitrites are enter into the soil, and then there are some bacteria called as denitrifying bacteria, which again convert nitrates and nitrites into gaseous nitrogen. The process is called as denitrification. So nitrogen fixation, then nitrogen fixation by nitrogen fixing bacteria, or you say nitrifying bacteria, and by this way it enters to the ecosystem. Plants absorb the nitrates from their roots, and when plants are eaten by animals, it enters into the bodies of animals as well. By after the death of plants and animals, these nitrates enter into the soil, and then the denitrifying bacteria, which again release nitrogen gas from nitrates through the process of nitrification in the atmosphere again. So this is how the process of nitrogen cycle go on continuing, which play an important role. The circulation of nitrogen through biosphere is in various forms is called as nitrogen cycle. There are various processes that are involved in nitrogen cycle, that is nitrogen fixation by nitrifying bacteria, consumption of nitrates by plants, nitrates transfer to animals through food chain, decay of dead bodies of plants and animals enter into the soil, and then denitrifying bacteria convert nitrates and nitrites into nitrogen, and then nitrogen gas is released into the atmosphere again. So there is a cyclic nature of nitrogen in the biosphere, which is also called as an important biogeochemical cycle. So till now, what we have discussed different types of ecosystems, particularly freshwater ecosystems, saline water ecosystem are the aquatic ecosystem, and also terrestrial ecosystem. We have discussed food chain and food web and biomass pyramid, and we have also discussed various biogeochemical cycles till now. Uh, Thank you very much, students, for patient listening. We will continue with the last part of this module in the next lecture. Thank you very much.